Welcome everybody to the Umbraco case study series. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jake Compton. I'm the US Partner Manager with Umbraco, and we have a great case study to share with you today. I'm joined by Adage and Athletes for Justice. Adage is our gold partner here in the United States, and they're going to give you a little bit more background into the findings, needs, and the process that they went into with this project. Hopefully you all are inspired. I know I've talked to them about this project, and I certainly think it's powerful. So I can't wait for everyone else to see it as well. With that, I'm going to kick it over to another Jake and Kevin. They can do some introductions and kick it off.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this webinar, and we're going to talk about our work with the Athletes for Justice team. I want to thank the folks at Umbraco for having us for this, and for Kevin for joining us from Athletes for Justice. So some quick introductions. My name is Jake Toohey. I am a senior digital consultant at Adage, where I've been for over 10 years, and I work with mostly our association and nonprofit clients. And I'll let Kevin introduce himself.
Hi, yes, thanks, Jake. I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy. I am the team lead on the communications advisory team for Athletes for Justice. We have several teams, but yeah, I am the one overseeing the website and working with Umbraco.
So quick agenda here. We're going to talk about the Athletes for Justice story, which is a really interesting and inspiring one. We'll talk a little bit about Adage and how we fit into the project, and then how Umbraco and A4J work together in developing their website. And that is the story of the project. And we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. But if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them in there. And Jake's going to let us know if there's anything that comes up throughout the time here. So I will let Kevin kick it over, and we'll start with the story of Athletes for Justice.
Yes, so at a very high level, I'll just go through the Athletes for Justice, mission and vision. So the mission of Athletes for Justice is that it mobilizes professional and collegiate and everyday athletes as agents for systemic change by wielding their collective voice and galvanizing resources to amplify local efforts in the ongoing fight for justice. So that's a lot there, but essentially overall, we want to provide resources to nonprofit organizations, generally in underrepresented communities in urban areas that are doing the hard work but don't necessarily have the financial or communications capacity to attract funding and help their organizations grow. So that's where Athletes for Justice comes in. So some background here, you'll see that picture. That is Sam Acho, and he is for those of you not familiar with him, he is a former NFL player, played for the Chicago Bears and several other teams. He is just a wonderful, positive person to be around, great energy. And in 2017, he started Athletes for Justice amid the broader NFL protests with like Colin Kaepernick and protesting racial injustices across the United States. So he pulled together several players on the Bears, but they did not get anything really off the ground because, sometimes players retire or change teams. It's hard to keep momentum. So you move ahead to 2020, and there were many of the, again, racial protests amid George Floyd and other racial injustices across the country. And Sam knew a person named Rich Kong. He was pictured there on the previous page. And Rich had met Sam. Yeah, there's Rich right there. Rich had met Sam previously through other community volunteering and advocacy work, and they had created a good friendship. Given the zeitgeist of the country at the time, Rich told Sam that, now is a really good time to reboot the organization and get it going. Sam listened to Rich, said, hey, that's a great idea. I can do that, but I'll need some help with laying the structure of the organization. Rich said he knows some people. I'll get to that in a minute. But in the meantime, Sam reached out to his professional athlete friends, and these include the Chicago Bears players who he had previously worked with, as well as some other people in the Chicago sports scene. The great thing about Chicago is that you have professional athletes from every major sporting league, and they have big networks as well. So the Bears players you see here, Mitch Trubisky, Chase Daniel, Akeem Hicks, and Trey Burton, they were the original board members of Athletes for Justice. And then also coming on board were Jason Hayward and Diamond Shields from the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago Sky. And he leveraged this network And Sam has several partnerships with organizations on the west side of Chicago. So in these initial discussions in getting the organization off the ground, he pulled together multiple athletes. And on a Sunday in the middle of June of 2020, they met with the organization that supports local youth on the west side of Chicago. That's By the Hand Club. And they sat down with the teenagers who come to this organization, and they held listening circles to hear their concerns, especially amid the racial protest. And he wanted to hear what concern they had about the neighborhood, where athletes might be able to help, and just listen, show that they're there to support them. One of the common themes that they heard was that there are no large grocery stores in the neighborhood. So this is the Austin neighborhood in Chicago. There's 100,000 people there, but no major grocery store chain. And some of you may have heard this term before. It's what is otherwise known as a food desert. So what Sam and the athletes did, they used their own money and they bought a rundown liquor store in the neighborhood with the intention to tear it down and turn it into a fresh food market so that local residents could buy fresh produce. The local youth would then also be the ones who ran the food market. So they not only gain like job skills, but also entrepreneurial skills on how to price things and how to essentially run a business. So this was a big media event, the teardown event. Many professional athletes, Sam brought in Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, David Brown, the chief of police of Chicago. So large event, lot of media coverage, and they also held additional listening circles there. So these high profile public figures could hear concerns directly from the neighborhood residents. So generated a lot of media buzz, a lot of attention, both in published media and social media. So as you can see, Sam is moving really fast with the organization and making an immediate impact, but we needed to build a structure around this organization. And so this, going back to Rich Kong, this is where he comes in, and why Jake and I are talking with you today. So Rich and I know each other through a master's program. He and I were in it at the time through the University of Chicago, and we had a cohort of students. Rich reached out to a number of us saying, hey, do any of us want to volunteer? And about 20 of us came forward and said, yeah, we'd love to help out. How can we help? A number of us had different strengths, just given our professional backgrounds. Me, I have a communications and research background. I've managed many websites and also done brand launches in the past. And so I essentially became the lead of the communications and marketing team for Athletes for Justice. What we needed to do, though, is build a brand and also a website to essentially create some legitimacy for the organization. And you need that because as media is reaching out, as other people are talking about the organization, and you're trying to get bigger donors, how do you prove that you're legitimate without a website? And so this is where Adage and Umbraco came in. One of Jake Tui, his sibling, she was in our cohort. She connected us with Adage, and it was a great relationship from the start. And I will let Jake take it from here.
Yeah, so this was all happening in early June of 2020, and that's really when we got involved. And I'll just give you a little bit of background about Adage. Our tagline is technology advancing purpose, and that's because we work almost exclusively with mission-driven organizations, and we help organizations like Athletes for Justice achieve and advance their mission with technology solutions that fit their needs. So just some of the quick numbers about us. We were founded in 2021. We were a web applications development shop based in downtown Chicago with 75 employees. And like I said, the majority of our clients are associations and other nonprofits like museums, foundations, theaters, and performing arts groups. We also work in healthcare and a B2B vertical as well. So kind of where we bring our expertise to this story in our services is, the core services are strategy with a heavy focus on user and audience understanding, rooted in design thinking. Branding, developing a brand from scratch, like we're going to talk about today, but usually tweaking or adjusting branding, logos, style guides, and brand books for the web. UX and UI design is a big piece as well, prototyping, graphic design, and developing design systems. And then finally, technology and analytics. Technology for us is CMS and e-commerce implementations with complex integrations, DevOps, QA, and analytics, so strategy, conversion optimization, and other things that focus on continuous improvement. So over the course of our history, we've worked with many .NET content management systems, so we consider ourselves experts in that area. And we only offer 2 platforms today, with Umbraco being a key piece of our success in helping our clients. And we've been an Umbraco Gold partner for several years. Just to give you some high level about why we love Umbraco for our clients is, we have a proven portfolio of enterprise clients, most of them that offer live events, education, and really beautiful designs. So why we pick Umbraco, especially in this case, it's the friendly CMS, and it aligns with Adage's goals, culture, and those of our nonprofit clients. It's hyper-focused, hyper-user-focused, which Kevin will comment on in a little bit. Very flexible for integrations with a robust API, which we advocate for a best-of-breed approach, and Umbraco allows us to create seamless experiences for users with its ability to integrate with other platforms. Maybe the most important thing is security. It's an open source platform, but it's powered by Microsoft. So it's open enough, or it's got this vast community, but it's locked down enough that your site won't be vulnerable to bad actors and like other open source platforms. But that leads to performance. So there's plugins that are not only leave you open to security issues with some other platforms, but this Umbraco won't break your site with the plugins that it has. Community is huge. I think it's over 220,000 users, and it's still moderated enough in an open source community that best practices are adhered to. I mentioned design for growth, which you can start small, which we'll talk about today. The Umbraco Cloud, it's a super cost-effective cloud option. And then themes, which we leverage for the Athletes for Justice site, and we'll talk about. But and then finally, packages. They're built by members of the community, and they're not going to break your site. So I'm going to pause for a second, see if there's any questions that we have that have come through yet. Jake, if we have anything, but if not, we can keep it moving.
I think we can keep it rolling. If they do come through, I will bring them up at the end.
All right. So we will jump into the project. We talked about all the media attention that Athletes for Justice was getting. And just to give you an idea of the timeline, it was June 24th, 2020 is when Adage got involved and was introduced. July 13th, we kicked off the project, and during that kickoff, we found out that the Chicago Sky would be announcing a partnership with Athletes for Justice on July 28th. So 15 days later, and there was no website, no brand, so we needed a website fast. So Kevin, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was all hands on deck type of ordeal, and the communications team worked very closely, both with the Sky's PR team and also working with Adage on getting all the assets in place, all the photos in place, all the content in place, going through wireframes and anything like that, just shaking down what we needed on the site to have, a legitimate website up on July 25th, because the key reason to have that by that date is because with the Skies campaign, that was their opening day, or July 28th, that was their opening day. And they needed the players, this is all the players' idea, but they needed buy-in from the owners who would also contribute to it. But the owners didn't know who we were or, like what we were about. So this is where we needed to build up a website really quickly. So we set up a team, or Jake helped coordinate a team with us, and we worked with 5 different people on the team working on the web hosting, the whole web design, and also just general best practices on what we need to get the website started. We also had to work and get a donations page set up, and we worked with Adage on that to set up a Mighty Cause page that we could connect to the Umbraco site, and that people could easily make donations off the bat there. The great benefit, Jake can go into this a little bit later, but like the great benefit of Umbraco compared to some other sites as I worked with in the past is that, it was incredibly user-friendly, and it just provided a high quality reader experience going through. You could easily create pages and make edits on them without a doubt. And we were going through a lot of just quick edits and whatnot before the website was live. Adage was incredible crutch for us throughout the whole process. We leaned on them every single minute leading up to the launch of the website. And we launched the site. It was great. We had a great response. We raised over $100,000 as part of the campaign, with the majority of that coming within the first week. It was a 3-month campaign. Majority of those donations came in the first week, which we attribute to having that website up and running.
So this is obviously not a typical process for us when we go through discovery even. Typically, we're doing workshops, interviews, developing personas, doing technical discovery, and all the things that lead up to developing a core principles and vision and roadmap for a project. But just to reiterate, we need to move very fast. And in 11 days, we were able to launch the MVP version of the Athletes for Justice site. It was a little bit scaled down, but the agility that Adage works, or the agile process that Adage works in, and the flexibility and hard work of the team from Athletes for Justice were able to get this up. And Kevin talked about this a little bit, but just getting this go live with a light integration to be able to take donations, just getting that up there. And like Kevin mentioned, we were able to get over $100,000 in donations. Kevin, do you have anything else to add to that?
It was a great response from the Sky players. They loved how we were able to put it together. We were able to build up the pages. There's a lot of back and forth about who the players wanted to focus on. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, Athletes for Justice donates its funds to other nonprofits that might be under the radar and need some funding. So the Sky players had their selection of nonprofits that they want to donate to, and we had to constantly iterate on the website with images from other organizations that we could post on the website and various types of copy. There's a lot of edits to be made, but through the Umbraco platform, it was very simple and seamless, and anyone can make them. It was very easy and teachable platform.
So the continuous improvement piece is obviously something that's very important to us, and we wanted to touch on kind of the brand development, because this is really developing a brand from scratch. You see a couple different logo options there, but we start with purpose. And speaking with the Athletes for Justice team over the course of several discovery sessions, we're able to gather a lot of valuable feedback. And Kevin touched on the mission a little bit, but if you have anything else to add here, we'll talk about the vision next.
No, that is great. Mm-hmm.
So the vision, with this focus on connecting, funding, and amplifying calls for change, which is kind of a rallying cry for or an organizing idea for the organization. Kevin, how did you come up with those 3 kind of key principles?
So we worked closely with Sam on this. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we had several teams on the advisory board. So like I was the head of the communications team. We also had a partnership team. We also had a development team, and we had essentially a legal and finance team. We all worked together to really create what is essentially like the ethos of Athletes for Justice. A lot of this is stuff that Sam and the A4J board had talked about before, but they had never put pen to paper. And we really wanted to show how we could connect with these nonprofit organizations to give them like resources to help them do their work, fund them so they actually have the financial wherewithal to do their work, and then amplify their voices, because if no one knows about them, no one knows that there's good work being done. And so with the essential like professional leverage that the athletes have, you could uplift these nonprofit organizations and show them all the good work that they're doing with the community. And that's what we wanted to convey here with the vision.
So the next piece of developing a brand is the identity. And we do things like semantic profile exercises that kind of suss out what the brand wants to say. This is just kind of what the brand is supposed to say, that they want to be taken seriously, you want to be credible and accessible, and that you can be trusted. So Kevin, anything else to add on the identity?
We really wanted to show that we're there with the people, with the community, not anything that would be sensing like elitism or anything like that. We are on the ground doing the hard work. That's what the athletes want to convey, and that's what was a key focus of the brand building.
So there were some different directions that were explored for the logo, but ultimately this was the version that shined out most. So Kevin, I don't know if you have any feedback about what led the team to choose this version of the logo, but I think we'd love to hear anything.
Yeah, so we loved the integration of equality with the logo, like equality equals justice. Jake, Denise Castaneda from the Adage team, she did a great job of putting this all together. We had a long brand building workshop with Sam Macho, me, and several others of the team, and really tried to get our sense of like what we're looking for the overall feel of the organization to be. The color scheme, you got they're inviting colors. It's not something that like is harsh or aggressive. It senses warmth. It's friendly font, the sans serif font, if you will, and you have just the integration of everything to show that we are all a cohesive unit together. That's essentially the core part of the Athletes for Justice brand, and we felt it just perfectly showed what we wanted to do.
So just some other aspects of the brand book. You have the different versions of the logo, a single color version. Colors were carefully picked to ensure respectable and friendly representation within the brand. Typography, we selected the Poppins font because of its resemblance to the logo wordmark, and then some of the fun stuff that we put together, how the brand would work with merchandise, on signage. Billboards is a concept we threw out there. Of course, there's printed materials, and then some swag, a little bit more swag, and then the sneaker, which was a big hit with the group. But then finally, how it's going to work with social. Obviously, social is a big piece for Athletes for Justice and getting word out. And then ultimately how it applied to the website. And then one other thing I wanted to touch on was the What About Chicago Radiothon that I think Kevin could probably talk a little bit more about, but it raised, I think it was over 700,000 in donations. So Kevin, if you could comment on that.
Yeah, so again, Sam is, the key ambassador and the president of Athletes for Justice, and he got this going with the Chicago Score, 670, the Score radio station. It's the premier sports talk station in Chicago. And they had an old style radiothon where people call in and donate. We also had, through the flexibility of Umbraco, we were able to put together a web page and continuously update it for the radiothon, and also embed a link to the page, to the main donations page that we had with the organization called Dime. One of the great advantages of the color scheme is that you do have the orange in there, and so you have the radio buttons there, and they call out, they grab your attention right away to donate. And Sam was continuously on the radio. We worked actively with social media. We are continually updating the website. And again, yeah, within 24 hours through matching donations and everything, we raised over 700K. It was a fantastic fundraiser, and we're very proud of it.
So one of your team members, who happens to be my sister, talked about the ease of use, especially for those who have no background in building websites, and obviously the ability to go to market quickly with Umbraco. But Kevin, you've worked with a number of different content management platforms, so I'm interested to hear kind of how Umbraco stacks up with some of the others that you're familiar with.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I've managed a number of websites just through my own career, and several platforms have just not cut it. They do the job for what you need to do, but just in terms of user experience, it's just not the best. So for example, take Wix. It's fairly easy to work with and build sites on a budget, but these are all my personal opinions, but we've had issues with front end display. Pages could be like slow to load, or just a little buggy, like a delay in display. I've also had issues with Wix. The pages don't auto resized with window adjustments, and it just leads to overall frustrating reader experience. I've also worked with Webflow, and I personally felt it was a scaled up version of Wix. The user experience was better, but me, I have an editorial background. I'm not necessarily a designer, and Webflow seemed to be more targeted toward like graphic and site designers versus editorial content creators. And I felt that had some limitations there. WordPress, it's ubiquitous. It's fairly easy to work with and build sites on budget, but the problem is, it's very, very reliant on plugins. The fact that it is ubiquitous, it makes it a target for hacks. And just given the WordPress sites I've worked with in the past, that there's been issues with publish to display time and making edits on live pages, delays there, and that's problematic when you need to update a page in real time. Sitecore, I've worked on enterprise level platforms, and for me, the experience has just been a very convoluted content management system. It seemed just very out of date, like antiquated, going back to like 20 years. You can't easily reorder and like move pages like across like files. Like there's no like easy drag and drop thing, or just easy to move type of formatting structure like that. That I've had issues with anchor tagging, and intersite links are not necessarily intuitive. Many issues with the file buckets and version control and ability to publish updates on the site. And in general, just the learning curve is very large. It took weeks at a time for any new employee at my company to fully understand basic web publishing processes for Sitecore. So I had made this aware to Jake as we were entering the initial website development process, and Jake completely agreed with me. And with Athletes for Justice, we needed a website that could start small and build on something larger as the organization grows, provide a high quality reader experience for both text and images, and also just provide a seamless and modern content management system that can be easily learned by anyone, and also allowed for just quick content updates. And Umbraco checked all those boxes, and we have been very pleased with it.
And we were happy to learn that the site actually won a Communicator Award for digital distinction. So that is really the story of Athletes for Justice. I have time here for questions, but I wanted to pop this slide up. Adage does offer a complimentary site assessment to anybody that's watched this. So it's personalized reports, identifying key performance indicators, things like speed, SEO, and information architecture. So we would be happy to talk to anybody. You can scan that QR code, and we would be thrilled to do a site assessment for you. So Jake, do we have any questions that have come in?
I'm going to let them kind of stream in if anyone does have any questions. While I'm waiting for those questions to come in, I want to thank both of you for taking the time and sharing the story with us. Kevin, obviously very, very powerful stuff you all do at Athletes for Justice. So thank you for that. And happy to hear that Umbraco could be a little part of the huge impact that you all make. And Jake, of course, I know Adage does phenomenal work, but I always love when somebody besides myself is able to see that as well. So great to see the user friendliness, and Umbraco was able to help you streamline the project and so forth. So thank you both for taking the time. And then
thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And of course, this will go up on the recording as well, so people are able to go back and watch it. I don't know if we have any questions.
Oh, we are at time. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thanks, Jake, for joining us, and Kevin for
we do have one question,
in this
actually.
webinar. Oh, we do.
So it's for you, Jake. You mentioned that you like the best of breed approach. Have you used any third-party packages for the development?
We did use for the Athletes for Justice site. We used Uskin for the theme for the site. But as far as third-party packages, I mean, I've always found the U-Marketing Suite to be interesting, and we would love to do some more work with that. But that I'm also not a technical resource, so that would be that'd be my answer to that.
Certainly. Perfect. Yeah, and if there are any follow-up questions, of course, feel free to reach out to myself or somebody on the Umbraco team, and I'm sure Jake would be happy to answer questions as well.
Absolutely.
But thank you all, and thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next case study webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.